not going to shoot those little creatures. In the first place, they haven't done you any harm. In the second place, they may be radioactive. If they fall in the reservoir, they may contaminate the water supply. Save your time and ammunition, Benson.
George Reeves.
What the hell is that?
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me! Who's got you?
Christopher Reeve.
You wrote that the world doesn't need a savior, but every day I hear people crying for one.
Brandon Routh.
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Well, here it's an S. How about
Excuse me.
Henry Cavill.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
And David Corenswet.
Those are the 5 men who have had the honor of playing the Man of Steel on the big screen. And on this very special edition of Talking About the Movies, as we continue my 20-year anniversary of me covering the biggest new releases of the weekend, we're not only covering the biggest new release of the weekend, but the most anticipated movie of the year for not just me, but many, many other people. And I think you can pretty much tell I was pumped for this movie. I couldn't wait to see this film. We're going to talk about the brand new Superman movie. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about Superman's legacy in film beforehand. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the other Superman movies. Show off some older reviews from Talking About the Movie, from Time About the Movies when I did the Superman 4: The Quest for Peace and also Superman Returns. And also basically try to figure out how we got to this point after all these years. And let's just go ahead and get right to it. And let's start off at the very beginning. Now, I'm only covering specifically the film portrayals of Superman, even though George Reeves has played Superman on television in The Adventures of Superman, which actually was what we're about to talk about here. The film that we're about to talk about is actually the film that began as the trial run for what would eventually become The Adventures of Superman, and that is Superman in the Moment, which was back in 1951, and it was actually one of the earliest Superman movie, not a serial, not the cartoons from the 1940s, but this was the first full-length movie that Superman was ever in. And in it, you had Clark Kent and George Reeves as Lois Lane as Phyllis Coates arriving in the small town of Silsbee to witness the drilling of the world's deepest oil well. The drill, however, has penetrated the underground home of a race of small, furry people who then come to the surface at night to look around. The fact that they glow in the dark scares the townfolk, who form a mob led by the vicious Luke Benson, intent on killing the strange people, but only Superman has the chance to prevent the tragedy. And the movie pretty much essentially is very much like an old-fashioned 50s-style sci-fi movie, but with Superman in it. It's silly, the costumes for the moment are a little too phony for their own good, and it still has the same fun levels as the classic 50s sci-fi movies did. They're not great movies, but they're fun, silly movies to watch with your buddies on a drunken stupor. And yeah, it's a barely feature-length film at 58 minutes long, but it does run at a good enough pace, and the movie just works because it's just the story is played out so well, and it plays it on a more serious movie note than what the Adventures of Superman series would eventually become, which was more lighthearted. But again, it's hard to take the Man of Steel seriously when you have lines like "Save your time and ammunition, Benson," when the Woman look completely as ridiculous as they do in the movie. I mean, they do really look ridiculous, but everyone plays their parts very well here. There's a lot of cheesiness in this movie. It's very corny, very silly, but it works, and it's a product of the time period. I mean, these are the type of movies that were coming out around that time, and they should be enjoyed on that same level from like the 50s and 60s sci-fi movies were of the time. Except the silly moments of it, and mixed in the good acting, a good story, and a good runtime, you got a pretty decent Superman movie. Of course, the definitive Superman in feature film form is obviously the 1978 Christopher Reeve movie, and you know, Superman was going through a really bad stretch during the 60s and 70s, with the low point being the infamously bad Superman musical special, Look Up in the Sky. The Man of Steel desperately was in need of a relaunch, and with the help of Richard Donner, a script by Mario Puzo, the Salkinds, who had previously had success with the Three Musketeers movies, and boasting a great cast that includes Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando, and a young up-and-comer named Christopher Reeve, yet a Superman movie that not only promise everybody that you will believe a man can fly, but will give you the Superman epic that you deserve. And this is the definitive Superman movie. It's the origin story of how it all began. It's one of the best movies ever made. It really is a film that perfectly creates the epicness that the cast and crew were hoping for when they pulled this together. And it really is a big adventure film about the origins of Superman. Right from the beginning, you're already hooked in because of the story, because of how amazing the sets look. Marlon Brando is great. He didn't look at this as a silly comedy. He saw this as a legitimately good script. And the movie does a very good job splitting itself up into 3 different acts. The first act being the origins of Superman and the planet Krypton and its destruction. The second being Superman growing up in Smallville. And the last one being Superman in Metropolis. All are very well handled. Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve have this amazing chemistry together. It feels authentic. You can buy into their relationships overall. And Reeve finds that great balance between Clark Kent and Superman, where he'll always be the definitive Superman, no matter how hard you try. Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor is great. The rest of the cast is really good. Ned Beatty, Glenn Ford, Jackie Cooper, Mark McClure, Terrence Stamp, Valerie Perrine, Phyllis Thaxter, Trevor Howard. I mean, just everything about this movie works. The music, top-notch. John Williams' score gets me every single time. It's a terrific movie. It's an incredible, incredible film. You can't really say too much more about this one. Superman 2 is great, too. It's a really good movie, even though it has its flaws behind the scenes, but overall, it's still one of the better superhero sequels. And you know the story behind the scenes about Richard Donner was originally intended to direct it, but then it got cut. And then because they were working on both of these movies back to back, so they basically had to put their focus on the first film and then figure out what to do with the second film. And then when they realized they couldn't work together, they hired Richard Lester to come in and do Superman 2. And there are flaws to it, but goofy flaws to it. The first one had goofy flaws to it, but it still works. I mean, the first movie literally ends on one of the stupidest things possible, but you buy it because you're just so hooked in. And Superman 2 definitely has a lot of those elements too, but at the same time, it's good. It's still fun overall. It's still a better superhero sequel than most people would expect. Superman 3 is where we start to go down the bottom of the barrel. Superman 3 is pretty rough to sit through. Mostly because Richard Pryor basically just takes over the film for no particular reason. Like, there's literally no reason why he has to be the center focus of the film in general. And Superman kind of gets pushed off to the side in his own movie, but he does have a good subplot. A couple good subplots. One with him in Smallville with Annette O'Toole's Lana Lang, and then the thing about him having to fight his other self in general, which, coincidentally, the new Superman movie kind of does that too, but I'll delve more into that in just a second. But yeah, Superman 3 definitely was the beginning of the downfall, and Superman 4, I think I've talked about this enough, as one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And if you don't believe me, here's what I had to say back when I did the Reviewing Network Talks about his 30 worst movies of all time. Now, this one, Superman does a lot in his newest adventure, including having the return of Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, determined to make the world safe for nuclear arm merchants, creating a new being to challenge the Man of Steel, the radiation-challenged nuclear man, played by Mark Pillow. The two superpowered forces clash, which sees Superman saving the Statue of Liberty, repulse a volcanic eruption of Mount Etna, and rebuild the demolished Great Wall of China, and perform many more feats. Or stuff that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I'm not even going to waste any more time on this particular one, because honestly, this is going to be considered quite controversial to some people, but I think Superman 4 is even worse than Batman and Robin. I'm sorry, but the truth is, Batman and Robin is at least something that is at least funny, entertaining in a way, shape, or form. I mean, it's not a great movie by any means necessary, but I can watch Batman and Robin more times than I can watch Superman 4. I mean, oh my god. Superman 4 was horrible. Everything that was great about the first Superman film, Superman's 1 and 2, is just taken away big time. And you can just tell they were just in it for the money on this one. I mean, nobody wanted to make a good movie here. All they wanted to do was just make a quick buck, and that's it. And to be perfectly fair, there's one scene in the beginning of the movie that I thought was pretty good. Clark going back to Smallville. It's a nicely done scene. It's the one lone thing about the movie that I will give it credit for, because after that happens, it's all downhill from there. So where do you even begin with this? Well, let's start off with the effects, because remember how great the first Superman movie did a good job of making you believe that a man can fly, and the great effects they had in that film, and that was in 1978. Now, 9 years later, we have this. The effects of this movie are so atrocious. I talked about in Superman 3 how there was one scene where you can see Superman's string hanging out in one of the scenes when he's about to fly away, and it really does take you out of the movie. That was one scene, and here, It's everywhere. I mean, you could seriously see people holding on to strings as they're being thrown into the air. Not to mention that scene where Superman and Lois are flying in the air, and it's literally, you look at it and you can definitely tell that Lois is really falling from there. Yeah, I smell BS on that one. But yeah, there's just so many bad effects in this movie that's all over the place that would take me way too long to cover. Some of them will actually
You've been
go
gone a long time.
But the second thing that really hurts the movie is Luthor's plot to take over the world. It's ridiculous for a number of reasons. Number one, his
You've been
sidekick
gone a
is
long
the
time.
uber annoying John Cryer, who they literally probably took off the set of Pretty in Pink and said, "You're in this movie now, just be obnoxious and annoying." Because John Cryer can be
You've been
funny.
gone a long
John
time.
Cryer has proven time and time again he can be a decent comedic actor, but man, he gets on your nerves so goddamn quickly in this movie. 2. They successfully managed to get a piece of Superman's hair that supposedly weighs 1,000 pounds by taking a pair of scissors, a simple pair of scissors, by the way, one that you go into your kitchen and take out of your drawer, and just clip it, and it's so easily be able to be cut off. How is that even possible? Unless those scissors could easily cut 1,000 pounds, that does not make any sense at all. And also, 3rd, Nuclear Man is basically the equivalent of an evil Captain Planet. Except because of this movie's bullshit logic, he's invulnerable to solar power. There are so many scenes in this movie where Nuclear Man is not even in direct contact with the sun, but miraculously can still fight just as much as he still did beforehand. So saying that he's invulnerable to superpowers, solar power, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. 4th, speaking of things that don't make any sense whatsoever, the whole movie makes no sense whatsoever. The biggest piece of what the hell were you thinking comes in the final act of the movie, where Nuclear Man takes Mariel Hemingway's character. I don't even remember her name. Just say it's Mariel Hemingway. But he takes her into space. Superman goes after him, and she's still able to breathe and not die out in space. Like, I don't care who you are. If you're in space without any kind of protection like a suit or helmet, you are dead. You turn into Bart and Homer when they're trying to leave the rocket that's going into the sun in that Treehouse of Horror episode. Like, you start blowing up, like you're about to go, you start blowing up and then you explode. That's what happens in real life. Not in this movie. No. Apparently in this movie, the laws of physics don't exist anymore because it's a comic book movie. And, who cares about being smart or being clever about anything about anymore, because we're just making a movie about this is a comic book movie. Like, I'm literally thinking that's the excuse that they went to the studio with. This doesn't make any sense. It's a comic book movie. You literally have her in space without a helmet or anything. Nope, comic book movie. You realize that this is one of our most popular comic book movie. Alright, fine. I mean, that's literally what happens. That's probably literally what happened with this movie. Like, the writers cannot be this stupid. They just can't be. And the biggest fuck you to this movie is Superman's big plan to eliminate all nuclear weapons. That scene in the middle of the film is one of the most stupidest scenes in the movie because Superman's plan is a nice gesture, but the big problem is that no official government is just going to hand you their nuclear weapons because you're Superman. Unless you're the Superman and Man of Steel, who's literally going to rip your head off if you don't give him the nuclear weapons. Not this Superman. Not the Superman that we know, that is seen as the most iconic Superman for a modern generation, pretty much. I mean, I know there's George Reeves in the fifth on the TV series, but everyone thinks of Christopher Reeve, of course, that's the original Superman. But that being said, no government is going to just give you away their weapons just because Superman told you to give them up. And at the end, nothing has been resolved, but Superman takes it as a partial victory, saying this bit of insulting dialogue. There will be peace when the people of the world want it so badly that the governments will have no choice but to give it to them. So let me get this straight. Superman is saying that there will be no peace on the planet unless we ask for it so much that the government has to do it. Again, a nice gesture, but Superman, here's another problem with that. You're basically telling people to be loud and obnoxious until someone does what they want. Way to go, Superman. You just told people it's okay to be dicks in order to get what you want. I mean, this... everything I just talked about is why this is worse than Batman and Robin. Because, like I said, Batman and Robin isn't trying to deliver some important message to people. It's just trying to be silly, fun, popcorn, summer entertainment. But in Superman 4, it's trying to tack on an important message and issue like nuclear weapons. At the same time, throws these bullshit scenes that make no sense whatsoever. And then just to throw on a tacked on message about how world peace won't exist until you pester the government to do it. That's why Quest to Peace is not only one of the worst superhero movies ever made, it's one of the worst movies ever made. You really think Batman and Robin is the worst DC movie ever made? Just watch Superman 4 again. I dare you. Trust me when I tell you this. It's the worst of the worst in terms of Superman movies. There have been bad Superman movies, but this is the worst of the worst. Hands down, my number 15 worst movie of all time, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. So yeah, Superman 4 was basically the movie that killed the Superman dynasty, and basically Superman in general was kind of in decline because Batman had taken over his position. So, and it took a long time for Superman to eventually get back in movie form, but 19 years later, Bryan Singer, who had shown success with the X-Men movies, came in and gave us what I consider still to this point before I saw Superman today, the best modern day Superman movie of today, and that is Superman Returns.
They can be a great people, Kal-El, they wish to be. They only lack the light to show the way. For this reason, above all, their capacity for good. I have sent them you, my only son.
Oh, I can already hear the DC cinematic fanboys giving me shit for what I'm about to say because, sorry, I don't care. Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill Superman movies pales heavily in comparison to what will always be the best modern-day Superman movie, at least until the James Gunn movie comes out next year. That is Superman Returns, and I know this movie gets a bad rap, but I'm sorry. It's the better Superman movie than Man of Steel. With Man of Steel, Zack Snyder was clearly trying to turn Superman into Batman, and he just isn't. Don't even get me started on Batman v Superman, where Snyder just butchered not only Superman, but also Jar Jar Lex Luthor with Jesse Eisenberg's performance. That's another thing I'm not taking back. Batman v Superman is this generation's Phantom Menace, one of the worst movies from the last decade. What Bryan Singer does is bring Superman back to the Christopher Reeve style, while also trying to make it stand out, and make it his own, like what Tim Burton and Christopher Nolan were able to do with their own style of Batman. Does it work all the way through? No, it doesn't, but there was certainly more about it, this movie, that I enjoyed than most of what was in Man of Steel. It didn't need to go for a darker tone like Man of Steel did. It doesn't need to go bleak and look so bland like Man of Steel did, and it certainly didn't need to be a boring, long heap of a movie like Man of Steel is, even though Superman Returns does that too, but not as badly. But let's talk about the movie itself. You have Superman, after eliminating General Zod and the other Kryptonian arch-villains, Ursula and Nun. Superman leaves Earth to try to find his former homeworld of Krypton after astonishers have supposedly found it. This movie takes place after the events of Superman 2, and just kind of forgets Superman 3 and 4 exist, which, that's good. Neither one of those movies are great either. When he finds nothing but remains, he returns home to Earth to find out that Lois Lane, played by Kate Bosworth, is engaged to a relative of his boss, the boss being played by Frank Langella, and Lois' fiancé is played by James Marsden, and that Lex Luthor, played by Kevin Spacey, is at it again, after swindling an elderly, terminally ill woman, who was actually played by Noelle Neal, the original Lois Lane on the 50s George Reeves show. The psychopathic Luthor who plans to destroy California failed because of Superman's heroics, vowing vengeance against the Man of Steel and contriving a new sinister plot using the crystals of Krypton to build a continent that will wipe out most of North America. Embedded in the continent's structure is kryptonite, the lethal substance that is Superman's only weakness. Upon learning of Luthor's sinister scheme, Superman must race against time to stop the psychotic Luthor before millions, possibly billions, are killed. Now, a lot of people are mixed on this movie. A lot of people hate it because it isn't the Superman movie they want to see. It's not really a new rendition like Man of Steel, but it's mostly an homage to the original Superman films by Richard Donner. But honestly, that's not a bad thing. Yeah, it's the same Superman we got from the good old days, but you know what? After all the things they did to him in the third and fourth movie, and especially what comes in the Zack Snyder movies, which we'll get into that in a little bit, I'm glad that we got a fun, good old-fashioned Superman movie out of this, and that's what I really like about the movie. The casting is one of the biggest sticking points with a lot of people because of their age. But honestly, I thought Brandon Routh did a very good job playing Superman. He keeps the majority of what makes Superman what he is. And he's great in the movie as a title character. I really liked him a lot. Guy got kind of a bad rap after this movie came out because nothing really opened up for him afterwards. The biggest thing he did after this was Dylan Dog Dead of Night. Or even Scott, I take that back, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World he was really good in. But, Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane I thought was very good in the film. The chemistry between her and Routh works really well. And again, it bears a very close resemblance to the chemistry that Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder had in the first two movies. Also, Christopher Reeve was 26 when he came out of was cast as Superman, and Routh was 25. So the age difference thing, yeah, that's a bullshit argument. I can go there. You also got good performances by James Marsden as Lois' fiance. He's not playing a stereotypical douchebag boyfriend that we see in movies like this. He does play a sincere, very caring guy, and he's not stupid either. There's a great scene where he's asking Lois if he still loves Superman. He's playing it very straightforward, and I think it's a good scene. It definitely shows what James Marsden's capable of as an actor as a whole, and we'll see that later on down the road with the movies that he would star in later on. The most seasoned players of the film also handled their parts very well. Frank Langella is great as Perry White, but Kevin Spacey just pitch perfect as Lex Luthor. Say what you will about the guy nowadays, because there's a lot of things you can say about him that are very negative, but this guy has 2 Academy Awards for a reason. He's a hell of a damn good actor. And his Lex Luthor captures every aspect of what we come to expect from Lex Luthor, and he makes it his own. He handles it very well. You also have a lot of good supporting performances from people like Sam Huntington as Jimmy Olsen, Parker Posey playing Lex's henchwoman, Miss Tess. Is it Miss Tessmacher in this movie, or is it somebody else? It's a different character, even though this is technically based off the Taskmaster character played by Valerie Perrine in the original 70s Superman movie. So I wasn't too far off. So I'll give myself a little bit of credit for that. But, Cal Penn has a couple of brief scenes as Lex's henchman. The film utilizes old Marlon Brando clips for some of the scenes where he plays Superman's father, and they're used effectively. They're not just there to just be like, just there because of, disportation. They actually do play a part in the storyline in general. I thought a lot of the action sequences and visual sequences were very well done. That one shot where Superman is just listening to people all over the world on the edge of the earth, and it's just this one log tracking shot. That's incredible to look at. That's my favorite scene in the entire movie. Like, there's also those great scenes where, he's on top of the building fighting this guy with a gun, and, of course, he has that scene where he shoots the gun and it goes right for the eye, but, like, Superman's eyes are so strong that it destroys the bullet before it can even hit him. But now, before you think I'm going to go into this movie with all kind of praise, yes, there are a lot of notable flaws to the film. First off, the story. The main problem with the story is that it does start off very strong, basically saying that Superman 3 and 4 doesn't exist anymore, let's move on. But by the time the main plot gets halfway through the film, we find out that they're basically just redoing the same plot from the first movie. I got a little peeved by it, because honestly, I think there could have been a much better story that could have been told without reusing one of the same plots from the previous films. I give the movie credit for trying to add different elements to it than having the plan actually happening and you seeing the damage and the cause of the damage of what the Lex's plan was going to do. I think it benefits by adding those scenes, but yeah, it's not a very well put together story when it's literally copying elements from the first film. The runtime, yes, it does run 3 hours long, and while Batman Begins and The Dark Knight can get away with a long runtime and all that, it's because they have a lot of great things going towards them, and they keep the audience invested in what's going on. But in this movie, there are a lot of points where the movie could have ended and adds a lot of these pointless scenes that just drag on for no particular reason whatsoever. And the biggest... Sorry about that, I had to burp. But the biggest flaw with the film is the whole secret about Lois' son. There's a whole subplot about Lois's little kid who his father really is, which, I mean, if you can't figure it out by the time they started it, that you really have to, it's like you really need to examine your head, because good lord, like, that's one, I like this movie a lot, but when they first introduced this kid and everyone's just like, nobody really knows who the father is, it's like, really? Nobody knows who the father is. Like, first of all, one of the problems with this kid is that he doesn't have one word of dialogue in this movie, and he can't speak. Like, I guess he has the same problem as the kid from Scrooge, who couldn't speak after his father died. And two, we know nothing about him before he has these big scenes in the second half of the movie. So, why are we supposed to care about him? Because he's the little kid in the movie? But like I said before, the biggest thing about this is that what really ticked me off was that it's the obvious attempts that they try to convince us that this kid is really Superman's kid. There was literally 4 scenes in the second half where they literally pulled it out of the open, and Lois doesn't even give it a second thought. It's just like, that's weird. Like it would be the equivalent of turning around and seeing that your house is on fire, and then you're just like, well, that's very peculiar. And then every time you look back on it, that like your house is completely like all the way to the ground. And it's just like you never put it together. It's just she never puts it together that Superman's kid, and it's just like, come on. Like, if I could figure it out right from the get-go, that's bad writing right there. And it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, I can understand people being very frustrated with that, because I was certainly frustrated with that too. But regardless of all of that, of the two reboots that have come out for the Man of Steel, Superman Returns is, my opinion, the far superior reboot. It has an interesting story that takes place after the first two Superman movies. It's a film that has a good cast that works well with it. Everybody in the story acts like who they're supposed to be. You have a director who knows Superman and clearly has an idea of what kind of a movie he wants to make with him. The action sequences are great. The music is great. The visuals are impressive. It's a great action film. It's by no means a classic, by any means necessary. It has a ton of flaws to it, but it did a better job of bringing Superman back into the mainframe than Man of Steel did. I'm in that minority, but I don't give a shit. Superman Returns is the better reboot, in my opinion. Now, James Gunn's Superman movie that is in production right now, everything that I'm hearing about it looks really, really good. Everything about it has a lot of the same things that I was looking forward to with this movie. James Gunn clearly has an idea of what to do with Superman, and from the early stuff we've seen from it, it looks like it's gonna be that type of a movie that Superman Returns was, except hopefully on a more mass appreciation level than Superman Returns did. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what James Gunn brings to the table with it, but until then, this is still the better reboot of the Superman series in a modern setting. Go at it with me, and I will be more than happy to take your comments down below, and constructive criticism, people, because if you're just going to if you're not going to give me any real criticism for this, I'm going to delete the comments, because I have that power to do that. I have the power to do it with these hands. But So, that's my 10-minute review of Superman Returns. So, those are all my thoughts on Superman Returns. I still love that movie to death. It's in my top 3 of my favorite films in 2006. I love that movie more than most people will let on. And, unfortunately, the movie didn't do so well, so that means another reboot had to come out. And this is where we're going to get to the real problems with how Superman's been presented in the last decade. Keep in mind that the Zack Snyder Superman was only made because Warner Brothers was about to lose the rights to Superman. Warner Brothers had to get a Superman movie out by 2011, in production by 2011, and they basically put a film together with one of their heart directors, Zack Snyder, and for the first movie, it's fine, I guess, but there are definitely a lot of flaws, specifically with Henry Cavill, who's, God bless the guy, he's trying his best, but he just comes off as a plank of wood, honestly. And the rest of the supporting cast overall around him was pretty good overall, but there are definitely those moments in there where you can just tell Zack Snyder had no intentions on making a Superman movie because he loved this franchise. He loved this franchise and these characters so much. He made it because Warner Brothers was desperate to get the rights held on to, and that's why that movie was made. And it may have been fine for the first movie, and even when I watched it again recently, I was just kind of like, I can see where he's coming from, but I'm not going to say it's a great movie per se, but it certainly beats the crap out of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, which I can still consider one of the worst movies of the last decade. This generation's Phantom Menace. That's a movie that took every single problem with Man of Steel and doubled it to a level that was so ridiculous, because now we're going to start off our own Marvel-style cinematic universe, but we're going to do it in half the time because we're better than Marvel, which, that didn't work out so well. And when you watch the movie, it's really not hard to see why. Ben Affleck was good as Batman, so was Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but everything else about that movie was just a mess. I mean, just all the cameos, all the stupid things in there, Jar Jar Lex Luthor played by Jesse Eisenberg, the whole thing about, Superman just basically kind of being a wimp in that movie. I mean, he was a mama's boy in that movie because he only goes to fight Batman just to save his precious mother, and it's just like, this is Superman we're talking about. This is ridiculous. Like, they killed off Jimmy Olsen because we wanted to have fun with it. That's what Zack Snyder literally said when he made that. We want to have fun with it. And yeah, you may have had fun with it, but no. Granny's Peach Tea. Do I need to say anything more about how bad this movie is? Doomsday is the main villain in here. You save Doomsday for his own movie. You don't put him in at the end of the movie to be this last-minute, third-act, villain thing. Like, just... I hate that movie so much. I've gone off on it so much beforehand, and we'll throw in Justice League too, even though he's not really the main superhero in it. He's in it, and I still like the Joss Whedon cut. I'm sorry, I'm never gonna watch the Zack Snyder cut, no matter what anybody says. Like, I don't think it's a great movie, but it's still got. I just can't take the Zack Snyder anymore after what he did with Batman v Superman. So. Finally, after the Snyderverse has officially come to a close, and now that we have this new Superman series beginning, a lot of high expectations were coming in with this. James Gunn coming off with the success with the Guardians of the Galaxy series, would he be able to fix a lot of the problems that were caused by the Snyderverse? Well, you're going to find out the answer to that after we take this little break, because when we come back, we're going to go into my full review for the new Superman movie. So stick around, we will be right back after this. And welcome back. So now that we've taken a look at the past 4 people who have played Superman on the big screen in feature film form, let's take a look at the current Superman, and we take a look at what James Gunn brings to the table as we see the first of his new DC universe, like I said, coming off of his years at Marvel with Guardians of the Galaxy, and coming over to the DCEU after working on the Suicide Squad and then Peacemaker, and now given full control of the reins and trying to finally give DC its cinematic universe comparison to Marvel's cinematic universe. And this time, James Gunn is taking a lot of the same steps that Kevin Feige did when he put together the MCU. They're not doing it in half the time that DC did it beforehand. They're taking their time with it. They're doing it one movie at a time, and this is the first film that's going to have started off, and that is Superman. And not even a fancy title or anything. It's just simply Superman. And it pretty much lives up to that name, as you have David Cornsweet, whose last movie that most people saw him in was in Twisters, as he stars as the Man of Steel, who has to prove to the world that he is their protector after billionaire Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, conducts a plan to turn public opinion against him. Essentially, Lex Luthor is basically just trolling Superman throughout the course of the movie, basically getting him to crack under pressure, because in this movie, Superman is the Superman that we know him to be. The man who's fighting for truth, justice, the American way, and also making sure that nobody gets killed. That was his message. That was the message that his father gave to him. His father and mother gave to him, played in this movie by Bradley Cooper and Angela Serafine. Now, the latter you've seen in the Twilight movies, and I remember from a good old-fashioned Orgy, which was the movie that came out in very limited release in 2011, but Bradley Cooper, you know who he is, obviously. Rocket Raccoon. I mean, do I even need to say who he is? But I gotta say, he was actually pretty good as Superman, and as Superman's father in general in this. And yeah, like I said, the whole movie basically is Lex Luthor trying to get Superman to crack under the pressure so he can take over this country. Superman stopped an invasion from Boravia, which was an ally of the United States, and of the neighboring county of Jahapur, and I'm probably getting that name completely wrong, but yeah, so basically that happened, and Lex is basically trying to force Superman to crack under the pressure and keep him busy while these two nations go at each other, and Lex Luthor can essentially take over because he essentially has investments with the president of Boravia, Vasil Glukos, And there's a lot of other things going on in the movie, but it's basically that setup here. We also get a little bit of the Justice Gang, or the Justice League eventually, that will become, as we have Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern. We have Edie Gathega as Mr. Terrific. We have Isabella Mercer, who's playing Hawkgirl. And then later on down the road, we see Anthony Carrigan from Barry starring as Metamorpho. And I really didn't know who he was at first. The first time I saw him, I thought to myself, why does this guy look familiar? I thought it was Martian Manhunter, honestly, at first, but then I had to look again at the credits, and it's just like, oh, wait, that's Metamorpho, and I should have known that, but yeah, there was a lot going on in this movie, but here's the thing about what this movie is really like. The thing about this movie that I think this film does very cleverly is that it's not another origin story. We don't see Krypton getting destroyed once again, because James Gunn, I think, knows. I think he knows that everybody knows that we already know what happened with Superman. He just basically has like a text, similar to Star Wars in a way, like kind of a Cliff Notes text basically telling you what happened, is how we got to this point. 3 billion, it starts off with like, I think it was 3 billion years ago, and then 3 decades ago, 3 years ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 days ago, 3 hours ago. And the movie, you ever remember how the first trailer started with Superman being completely smashed into it, like Antarctica, and like bleeding out? That's how the movie starts. That's how the film literally starts off. And then, just almost as the movie begins, we see this little guy right here, Crypto the super dog. And yes, he is absolutely adorable and chaotic, and I love every single moment of him. Protect this dog with all costs. I got this when I went to the movie today, and yeah, like I said in the movie stop episode, it was a little expensive at $40, but here, hey, you got this, and then you got an extra large popcorn with a refill and a large drink, so it evens itself out on that front. So, but yeah, Crypto was pretty amazing in this. But yeah, that's how the movie literally begins, and the film is very smart to not sugarcoat this for anybody who doesn't know the origin story, which really you should know it by now. And if you don't, I don't think if you don't know it, it's not going to ruin your overall enjoyment of the movie. You can still see you can figure out who Superman is just by what he has to deal with in the movie. And yeah, the movie, let's just get it out of the way right now. I badmouthed Zack Snyder's Superman for the longest time now. And I've said ever since I saw Superman Returns, that's still the best modern-day Superman movie until James Gunn can prove he is the guy that can make Superman essentially a great superhero again. And needless to say, he did it. The son of a bitch did it. Superman is back and better than ever. This movie exceeded a lot of my expectations. I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I really had a great time watching this movie. I thought they did a very good job of keeping it down to basics. I mean, this movie is essentially, this movie basically is, let's reintroduce Superman to people and show him what he really is. Let's prove that what Zack Snyder did for the last 10 years was complete and utter BS. Superman is not that violent person. He's not, he's not somebody who Zack Snyder desperately wanted a Batman so much, but he tried to make Superman Batman, which you cannot do. There's no Jar Jar Lex Luthor. There's no stupid element. There's no stupid stuff here that makes zero sense to what Superman is. This is straight up 100% Superman. You could tell James Gunn took a lot of inspiration from the Christopher Reeve 1978 movie and made it his own, and it just works. It works so well to a T, and I think it helps because you have a great cast that makes it come together. David Corenswet is pitch perfect as Superman. He's so good in this, and you can just tell that he's got the mannerisms of a Christopher Reeve, but he's not trying to be Christopher Reeve. He's not trying to rehash the same thing we've seen done before in the past. This is a guy that clearly knows how to make this his own, and he makes it work perfectly. Rachel Brosnahan, who most people already know from The Marvelous Mrs. Major, which, to my personal opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I'm one of those people that really does not like that show. I know a lot of people really like it, but I'm not one of those people that really do. I just never really got into it. I just never thought it was that funny, that clever, or that really engaging overall, even though it has a lot of people I like in it. Alex Borstein, Tony Shalhoub is in there too. I just could never get into it, per se. It's not because the acting is bad, it's just, I just don't know. It just didn't work for me, per se. But I never had anything bad to say about Rachel Brosnahan as a whole. she's really good as Lois Lane. I like the fact that this movie has the ability to come out and say, yeah, Lois already knows who Superman is. Like, we don't need to play this game anymore. That's what I love about this movie. James Gunn knows to cut the BS. We know everything we need to know about Superman. We know that Lois knows who he is, so we don't have to do the whole thing about. But what about the glasses and all that, which the movie hilariously makes fun of in this. Like, I love the way they bring that up in here. Everybody in here is really good. The Justice Gang is a lot of fun. Nathan Fillion is very funny as Green Lantern. Edie Gathegi is really good as Mr. Terrific. I mean, it literally is terrific in this. Isabella Mercer, she doesn't have a whole lot to do in this, but when she makes her presence known, she does a really good job of handling it. If there's one person I was kind of really surprised didn't really work that well, even to the point where I would say that it's not a bad performance, it's Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. And I liked him as Lex in here. It was just great to not have Jar Jar Lex Luthor again, like in Dawn of Justice. That movie just... I've said my piece about that one already, but he was good in here. I thought he was alright. He was probably the weak link of the main cast in general, but it wasn't a bad performance at all by him. It's just like... He's just kind of playing a standard Lex Luthor. I think Kevin Spacey did it a whole lot better in Superman Returns, but I like the way his parents are played. The parents are played by his Smallville parents. His parents on Earth, Pruitt Taylor Vince and Neva Howell, are very good in here. They play their parts very well here. I like Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen. I thought he was very good in here. I like Sarah Sampio as Ava as Taskmaster. I like the fact that she is kind of a ditz in this movie, so much to the point that every time she takes a selfie, she actually accidentally puts a lot of Lex's plans in her social media posts, and she's on her phone all the time in the movie, and I just love how cleverly the movie does with that. This is a role that isn't really asking for her to do a whole lot in general, but you kind of do get into it because she's just having a great time with it, and you do buy her chemistry with Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen. Like, it's clear that Jimmy Olsen sees her as very clingy, but there is kind of something where it's just like, go for it, man. I mean, look at what she did for her. Like, I was waiting for that moment where she was going to turn out to be like a backstabber and all that, but no. This movie, once again, it's smart enough not to do that. Everybody in here was really cool, too. Like, Wendell Pierce, you see him a little bit as Perry White. He's pretty good in here. Beck Bennett as Steve Lombard. Michaela Hoover as Cat Grant. Like, I had no idea who this actress was, so I thought she was just kind of this younger actress in general. But no, she's 40 years old, and let me tell you, in the movie, she does not look 40 at all. She looks really good for her age. And she's apparently worked with James Gunn for a long period of time, so shows you what I know. But yeah, there's Anthony Kerrigan as Metamorpho. I thought was really good. I thought they did a very good job of making that relationship between Metamorpho and Superman while he's in the prison work very well. I thought I like the little callbacks to James Gunn's other work. You see John Cena back as Peacemaker. You see his brother Sean Gunn as Maxwell Lord again. You see people that you don't usually expect to see in here. Like you see, Michael Ian Black as the host of this news show, which kind of like a Fox News-esque type show. Christopher Reeve's son, Will Reeve, is actually in this movie as an on-the-ground news reporter. They even bring in people like Michael Rosenbaum, who was Lex Luthor in Superman, as Lex Luthor in Smallville. And you have a lot of the people that have worked with James Gunn in the past. Alan Tudyk, Michael Rooker, Palm Clemente, Jennifer Holland voicing the Superman robots. Again, Krypto is absolutely adorable and awesome, and I love every single moment he was on screen. There was so much to admire about this movie, and I like the fact that this movie made Superman look vulnerable, because Superman's whole thing in this movie is that he just doesn't want to see people get killed, and even though his ways are not going to be seen by a lot of people as good, he has good intentions, and I love the way this movie brings in a lot of social media commentary to this. Like, there's literally a scene where, Superman basically decides to put himself under arrest, so hopefully he can figure out where Krypto is, as part of a ploy by Lex Luthor, and we go inside this portable universe that he finds, and you see, like, these monkey bots creating all these fake Twitter accounts. Like, it's literally the scene from The Simpsons where Mr. Burns is showing Homer, put a thousand monkeys in a room and they'll give them a typewriter and they'll write Shakespeare. And you know that scene where Mr. Burns is reading, it's just like, it was the best of times, it was the blessed of times, you stupid monkey, and he throws it just like like, that's a horrible monkey impression, but you get the idea. But the way they handle the social media output in this is just so very clever and very fun and very silly too. I mean, it is silly ridiculousness, but as I said before, a lot of the other Superman movies, the good ones, had a lot of silly, fun moments to it. And James Gunn, I think, is fully aware of what this movie is about and what this character is about. He's doing everything that Zack Snyder failed to do with the Snyderverse in general. And just to let you know right now, don't expect to see Batman in this, because I know there was a lot of people thinking that, well, if you listen to the specific song track on the soundtrack, it sounds like Batman's theme. No, you don't see Batman in this movie, but you do see an exit to Gotham City in the final climax of the movie, which, yeah, it's obviously going to be that way. In fact, there was one scene in particular where I thought that Jimmy Olsen was going into Gotham City to meet Batman. I thought that that's what they were doing, but of course it's not. It's him meeting up with Taskmaster, and yeah, the visuals look pretty good for the most part. The action sequences are well done. The comic book designs of some of the action sequences are top-notch. I even like the additions of some characters here. Like, there's one character that we meet later on in the movie that's Ultraman, and what they do with him, I'll be honest, I did not expect it to be what I thought it was going to be. And even when I watched it, I couldn't think to myself, wait, is that supposed to be who I think it is? Because I think it's somebody else in general. Like, I think it's another actor like this. Maybe it's another Superman from the past, or maybe somebody from a Marvel's universe, like Tobey Maguire. I'm not going to say what it is, but if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I thought what they did with that was actually well done. I think the film does more than enough to welcome Superman back in a world that desperately needs it. We need Superman now more than ever, not just in movies, but in the real world. With the way that the world has been in the last 6-7 months, and just where we're going with the next couple of years, we need this badly. We needed Superman now more than ever, and the film just welcomes Superman back with open arms, with a killer soundtrack. I mean, that Superman guitar riff from the teaser is in this movie, when it plays in this movie, I got chills. It's just like, I've heard this so many times before, but listening to it on a big screen in that situation, it's just perfect. It's just perfectly well done. I don't know who did that guitar riff, because there's two composers credited for this, John Murphy and David Fleming, and when you look in the credits, they're both credited for guitar, and I don't know who did it, but whoever did it, give them raises, man. They both did a hell of a job, whoever did it. Give them both raises, why not? But yeah, this is a movie that celebrates Superman. This is a film that they need Superman. This is a movie for people that need Superman now more than ever, especially with what has been going on in the last week. There's been this whole controversy about James Gunn literally coming out and saying Superman is the ultimate immigrant, which, that's not a controversial comment. That's literally what the purpose of Superman is. He is literally the definition of an immigrant, coming from all the way from space, landing on Earth, and using his powers for good. And people want to get on him for saying that. It was just like, even the people who have played Superman in the past. I'm looking at you, Dean Cain. What have you done since Lois and Clark ended? Nothing but lousy Christian movies. And but hey, your spot on Fox News is reserved for the next couple of years. But I'm sorry, but it's one of those stupid controversies that just needs to go away. And it's just like the way the world is right now. It's like I said, we needed this now more than ever, and especially after the last couple of weeks where it's just been one disappointment after another, where even a good movie like Ilya, which I saw again today, and I really enjoyed the movie the second time around. Like I said, the first 20 minutes are kind of slow, but once that kid gets abducted by aliens, that's when the film really starts to take off and really get going. But nobody's gone to see it, unfortunately. It's been a big flop, unfortunately, and we've had so many bad movies. Ballerina, which I won't even say is a bad movie. It's just not a great movie in general. How to Train Your Dragon was bad. 28 years later, started off strong, but then screwed it over in the last half. F1, I didn't think was all that great. Jurassic World Rebirth, I didn't think was all that great. I was really afraid coming into this movie that I was really going to hate it because I was just such on a downward stretch of bad movies. I really thought I was turning into Stan from South Park, where just everything was turning into shit. But this movie really gave me the much-needed hope that I needed. Not just for movies in general, but just for the world in general. Give me something to look forward to in life. And at least for a couple of hours, this movie did just that and then some. I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I've had time to think about it, and yeah, there are some flaws to it. Little flaws, but nothing to the point where I would say it completely ruins the flow of the movie. This is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. James Gunn did what he needed to do. That's the great thing about this movie, too, because not only did James Gunn do what we needed to do for Superman, he didn't just retread Guardians of the Galaxy again. It's not a jukebox musical again, mixed in with a Marvel movie. No, this is a movie where he's doing what he needs to do, and it works. It works all the way through. There were very little flaws I have with the movie. I don't know what else to tell you, man. I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I am definitely going to be looking forward to checking it out again many, many times in the future. What more can I say, man? I think you get the idea. Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, multiple thumbs up if I could. One of the best movies of the year. The movie that I needed to be a great movie. It delivered on that and then some. This is one of my favorite movies of the year, and it did not disappoint me in any way, shape, or form. Such a terrific, terrific film. If you have not seen it, go and see it. This is the Superman movie we've been waiting for so many years, and it's finally here. I'm so glad to say that now this is the best modern-day Superman movie we have. I still like Superman Returns, but James Gunn did what he needed to do. Now go ahead and give the DC Universe its proper universe that it rightfully deserves. Which, I'll say this too. We do get a sneak preview of the next movie in the DC Universe, which is the Supergirl movie, where we see, what's her name? The person who's going to play Supergirl. Millie Alcox, who... I like what they do with her in this movie. I like the fact that she's kind of a party girl, like a modern-day party girl here, because we find out that Supergirl is actually the real owner of Krypto, and Krypto is very chaotic in the movie, and you see where she gets it from, and yeah, I don't know what the direction is they're going with that new Supergirl movie, but if it's anything like we saw in that movie, it's at the end of this, I think we're in good hands here. I think this thing's going to be really, really fun to watch in general. And, yeah, I can't wait to see how that turns out. So, but that'll come out next summer, though. In the meantime, we get to enjoy this movie here, and it definitely is a film that deserves to be enjoyed. It's a really good film. One of the best superhero movies of recent memory. Superman, man. Super friggin' man. I think you get my point. And yeah, there you go. That is everything you need to know about the new Superman. It is awesome. It completely makes you forget about the god-awful Zack Snyderverse. And, yeah, what more can you say about it? But it's a great, great film. So how do you follow that up, a great movie like Superman, next week? Smurfs! Why not? I mean, hey, here's the good news. Those terrible trailers will be gone after next week. We won't have to think about them again, and we'll just let the movie speak for itself. And who knows? Maybe this is another case like Transformers 1, where Paramount is trying so hard to completely dismantle this movie's hope of being anything good, but it actually turns out to be a really good movie in the process. Or it could be the 4th time in a row that they've completely fucked over a Smurfs film. I mean, it's not impossible for that to happen. We had that happen with Scooby-Doo. I mean, they've had 3 attempts to make theatrical movies, and they nearly failed on every single one of them, especially the animated one, which is not that, which you would think would be better, but nope, it's not anywhere. It's not even. It's not, just slightly better than the live action movies, but not by that much. I'm hoping that Paramount knows what they're doing. I hope that they're giving you the bad stuff in the trailers so that you can enjoy the good stuff. But I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting to see that one when I go see it next week. But hey. It looks like we're getting back on track here, because after that we got Fantastic Four, and then on August 1st, I completely forgot The Bad Guys 2 was coming out, because I was more focused on The Naked Gun, which comes out on the same day, and which, by the way, they had a little trailer for The Naked Gun in the Superman thing, which is where Liam Neeson's just like, you're about to watch a man in red tights, in red underwear, save the day, like one of those specialty trailers. I could have recorded that and put it up online, but there were people next to me, and I didn't want to be a distraction, so. So yeah, if you see the movie in the theaters, you'll see that trailer. But anyway, Smurfs comes out next week. I'm hoping for the best on that one, so I'll have a review for that coming your way next week. But Superman, let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of the film? Are you on my side? Do you think it's a good movie, or are you one of those people in the Zack Snyder realm that basically thinks that everything that they're doing now is complete garbage, and Zack Snyder needs to be in control of everything, or something like that? Let me know down below. But please, constructive criticism as always. So with all that said, that's going to wrap this up. Excuse me. That's going to wrap this up, so I can actually talk straight. But if you want to see what I had to say about Jurassic World Rebirth, take a look at the video in the corner. Check out the last playlist I did, and also don't forget to hit that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button. And I will see you guys next week. So thanks for watching this very special episode. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.